Hey, everybody. I appreciate you joining us as always. You guys are phenomenal. You're the best in the world. You're watching the Richard Sherman podcast. But if you could do me a huge favor and hit that sub button, it would be greatly appreciated. You would do a service for your boy Sherm. And I tell you what, I got your back. You got my back. All love. Welcome to Richard Sherman podcast. And what a week. The 49ers win, the Seattle Seahawks win. It couldn't go much better, and an upset for the Rams. What a game for the Seattle Seahawks. They dominated this game from start to finish. Obviously, a little bit more of a shaky game for Sam Darnold, and we knew it would be. We knew Brian Flores would do his best to bring pressure, and he did that early and often, Mitchell. He did a good job of making sure Sam Darnold was uncomfortable in the pocket. He did a good job of making sure his guys got there and got hits on the quarterback. They forced a number of turnovers, forced fumbles, big-time hits on him in the pocket. He was a little shaky, and again, that ups the concern level for the Seattle Seahawks and I'm sure the fan base because, again, these are the issues that showed up before. These are the issues that plagued him in Minnesota last year and the issues that continue to plague him now. It's not going to change unless he changes the narrative. Obviously, the offensive line made a fair share of mistakes. There was one play where the tight end didn't block a defensive end and he came in scot-free. But, again, none of that helped Sam Darnold. What did help Sam Darnold was this incredible Seattle Seahawks defense. They forced 4 interceptions in the game. Another forced fumble. They got a pick six by Ernest Jones that I think was 85 yards on an incredible play by DeMarcus Lawrence to put pressure on the quarterback on a 4th down play. Another interception for Kobe Bryant. Tariq Woolen got it. Everybody got involved. Everybody got an interception in this game, and they were playing at an elite level. And then on the defensive line, it was the guy, the big fella up front who got the party started. Leonard Williams gets a sack early in this game that sets the tone. Then you look up, and DeMarcus Lawrence gets him one, and Byron Murphy gets him one. And everybody was getting in on the party, and you got to be able to appreciate the consistency and playmaking from this defense that allows this offense, even when they're in the game and they're struggling, and Flores is getting to Sam Darnold, and they're only able to manage 2 field goals in a game, they're still able to control this game and dominate it and win it in dominant fashion. They started to get the run game going a little bit in this game. I really appreciated that. Kenneth Walker, 13 for 56. It didn't seem like a lot, but it looked like a lot in the game. And there was a play where Harrison Smith got him. It was just a shoestring tackle, or he would have been gone. And that would have been a huge explosive play. But it just looked like the run game was starting to get going. And this is a really stingy defense. A really, really opportunistic defense that played really well. So you gotta appreciate how they played. Ernest Jones got another interception in the game. Charbonnet, 14 carries for 52 yards in the touchdown. This is the kind of game the Seattle Seahawks needed to just continue to reinforce the notion that they may be the best team in the NFC. And I know they lost to the Rams, but again, I still feel like the Rams are a flawed team. And I know everybody has all these stats to support them being an elite team, but to lose to the San Francisco 49ers at home with the backup quarterback and a bunch of cast-offs at receiver, it just gives me pause in naming them the best team. But their record said you got to name them the best team. So they've been number 1 in the power rankings. But their loss today to the Carolina Panthers really shakes everything up. Somehow the Chicago Bears are number 1 in the NFC right now in the playoff picture. I mean, anybody who said they knew that going into the season, including Chicago Bears fans, is lying to your face, Mitchell.
There's no question about that. But in regards to Seattle, man, yeah, you said it. This was not their best offensive game, certainly not Sam Darnold's best game. You figure he would come out, aggressive, playing his former team in the Minnesota Vikings that let him leave. He did not look the part today, but Seattle's defense did, and I got to wonder what Max Brosner's thinking about his first NFL debut here. That's not what you want to, turn in on your first important performance. You could see the guys frustrated out there. Kudos to Seattle's defense, making life very tough for Justin Jefferson. And I don't even know how many yards Justin Jefferson had. It didn't seem like he had a plus positive catch until like the fourth quarter. I know his first catch was for like -5 yards. So every time I was watching this game, it was either sack or an interception. So big shout out to Seattle. Richard, I'm with you. I think they're certainly one of the top 3 teams in this conference. I don't know if I'd throw them up at number 1. They got some work to do. But we'll see. I mean, down the stretch, man, this next couple of games is going to be the moneymaker for them. You know, they play the Falcons, and then they got some tough ones against the Colts and the Rams. So you want to see who's the best in the NFC, you knock off the Colts and Rams, and I think a conversation is certainly to be had for them to be the best in the NFC.
No question. You knock off the Colts and Rams, forget the NFC. You're talking about a case for the best team in the National Football League. Those are teams that have been in and out of the top 5 in my power rankings all season long. The Falcons have been struggling mightily, so I feel like the Seattle Seahawks can go in there and get a win there. The Colts struggled a little bit today, and that was surprising. The Houston Texans, that defense continues to make everybody struggle, and they're finding ways to win. I think they're now 7-2 in their last 8 games, or maybe 8-2 in their last 10. 7-2 in their last 9 games, or 8-2 in their last 10, if I'm not mistaken. I got to go back and look again, but they're playing great football. They started the season 0-3, and now they're finding themselves maybe in playoff contention. They got to win. They got to continue to win. I think they might have to win out in order to make that a reality, but there's some chaos in the National Football League right now. And another team that hasn't really had success in Cleveland, Mitchell. They have not won in Cleveland since 1984. The San Francisco 49ers go to Cleveland and get a win over Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns.
Hey, you know, it's the Browns. No one's thinking too highly of them, but the reality is they got a game wrecker on the other side of the field in Myles Garrett, who did get home once. But all in all, the 49ers controlled this game. Brock Purdy, 168 yards, a rushing touchdown. You saw his little Dougie dance that he did in the end zone. You got to love to see that, man. But Christian McCaffrey held in check, 20 rushing attempts for 53 yards. Richard, like, where are you at with the Niners? They're 9-4. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. This stretch of the schedule is all winnable games for them that they should be winning. Has your confidence level risen with this team despite all the injuries that they've endured this season?
Yes. I mean, because, again, if you got Kyle Shanahan, you got a chance. And that's what I feel with the San Francisco 49ers. Brock Purdy is still getting his legs under him. Obviously, there's still some injuries concerned with the toe. There's still some pain there. He's playing without the metal plate that a lot of guys wear when they have that kind of turf toe injury. So you got to keep an eye on that. But overall, he's playing solid football. Again, it's a tough environment, a really good defensive line that had him under duress all game long, and he found a way to not take sacks, to throw the ball away when necessary, to make the plays that were there. Even scored on a zone read today. That's a wrinkle we haven't seen from Kyle Shanahan in this offense in a really long time. I'm not sure we've seen it since Kaepernick, if I'm being honest. But the special teams in that phase of the game is where the San Francisco 49ers are a different team than they were last year or even the year before. The special teams are providing incredible value, and they had a huge hand in winning this game. Skyy Moore is the best returner the San Francisco 49ers have had probably since Ted Ginn, I would imagine, and he's making an impact on big games and playing winning football. When your offense is struggling, and they're struggling to move the ball against a defense that's stingy and aggressive as the Browns defense is, with a game record like Myles Garrett that we just talked about, you need your special teams to make a play. And Skyy Moore did that with a 66-yard punt return where he sliced through their special teams unit and set the San Francisco 49ers offense up with their first touchdown of the game, and I think that's really what got things going. And on the other side, you just see this defense continuing to mature. 3 sacks in this game, 2 forced fumbles recovered in this game, and they're just playing more consistently, more sound football, and you see the confidence growing. You hear how George Kittle talked about Alfred Collins and his growth and his work ethic, and just how hard he was working in this game and the impact that he was having and how proud he was of him. This team is together, and it's going to take a second for a young defense to gel in this way, for them. When you don't have the veterans, you don't have the guys, communicating the way veterans do. You don't have them understanding the game the way the veterans do and understanding the pace of the game and what should be coming here and on third down and second down. Oh, you should have a feel for this. You're falling. They're susceptible to veteran moves when you're a young guy. You got to learn the game, and I think they're starting to figure it out. And that's the cool thing to see. I said it before. I'll say it again. I think this entire staff deserves Coach of the Year. Robert Saleh, what he's been able to do, especially the last couple weeks with this defensive unit, is incredible. And I know Shedeur Sanders in this offense isn't world beating, but they are NFL offense, and he's been able to manufacture really good success against the Carolina Panthers, who just put up 31 against the number one defense in the land in L.A. against the L.A. Rams. But they couldn't manufacture that kind of points against the San Francisco 49ers, even with all the turnovers. The 3 Brock Purdy interceptions before the half, and they weren't able to turn those into points, but they were able to manufacture 31 points against the L.A. Rams. And so it's not like he's doing it against offenses that aren't having success everywhere else. Obviously, this is an offense that's been struggling mightily throughout the season, but you got to tip your hat off to Robert Saleh and the job that he's doing. You got to tip your hat off to Kyle Shanahan getting these guys prepared, and John Lynch for finding a way to band-aid this defense as best he can with Cleveland Farrell and Keon White and guys. I think Cleveland Farrell had 2 sacks today, and when you're last in the league in sacks, you will take it from wherever you can get it.
No question about it, Richard. It wasn't too long ago that I think the 49er faithful were ready to punt on the season with all these injuries mounting and mounting and mounting. And I know, you could even see it with you and in your face and your voice after that last Fred Warner injury. It just seemed like, man, maybe this is just not the year. But to your point, this coaching staff has put together and rallied the troops and has got these guys at 9-4 now. And Richard, I mean, the reality is their schedule the rest of the way allows them to compete for this division. They get to knock off some heavyweights, and we'll see how it nets out for them. They keep playing like this, anything is possible. They enter the bye week, they get healthy, they go play against the Titans and then the Colts. So we'll see here, Richard. I like what I see with the Niners, especially defensively. Brock Purdy, keep things rolling, keep getting back into his comfort zone. And the Niners might be able to make some noise at the end of the day. Let's switch the focus to the other NFC West team, though. You already alluded to them, the LA Rams. They take on the Carolina Panthers that are all of a sudden a super hot team out of nowhere. I think everyone had given up on Bryce Young as the quarterback for this franchise, but clearly he looks like he belongs, and he puts up 3 touchdowns, over 200 passing yards against this Rams team. And it really was Carolina's defense that set the tone. Big interception. They picked off Matthew Stafford twice in that first quarter when all you heard about was Matthew Stafford going 30 touchdowns and 2 interceptions on the season. They made life very difficult for Matthew Stafford. They come out with a huge win, especially for the NFC West. This is a huge win for the Niners and Seattle Seahawks. Richard, your thoughts on this game? I know the NFL has displayed a next-level amount of parity this season, but did you see this one coming?
No, I did not see this coming. And before I even jump down that rabbit hole, because we got a lot to talk about with that, because there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of people, a lot of Rams fans in the mentions like, oh, yeah, we're the best team, et cetera, et cetera. Every team's the best team for a little while in this league this year. But I want to talk about the weather conditions in Cleveland, because that was a big factor in this game. We talked about the special teams. There was a muffed punt in this game that led to a touchdown because the punt returner dropped the ball, and it was swirling winds, it was rain, it was everything. And those are the games the San Francisco 49ers usually struggle with. Those are the games that you look up and, the worst thing that could have happened in the game, Christian McCaffrey fumbles the ball or Brock Purdy, it slips out of his hand. That's what happened the last time they played in Cleveland. And the record Schwartz has against Kyle Shanahan is incredible. I think this is only Kyle's second win against Schwartz overall, period, as a coach. And so this is a big-time win. And I know that San Francisco 49ers fans were nervous in this game, and they got to feel good. But going to the Rams, going to the L.A. Rams, the world beaters, Mitchell, with the MVP of this season at quarterback, Matthew Stafford, 30 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions on the season coming into this game, and he struggled. He threw as many interceptions in this game as he had all season long, even including a pick 6 to Michael Jackson, not the Michael Jackson y'all thinking of, but the Michael Jackson in Carolina, who's been as hot as fish grease over the last couple of weeks. He had an interception against the San Francisco 49ers. He had a pick 6 this week. He's making himself some money, no question about it. Seems like he's found his rhythm. But this is an opportunistic defense for the Carolina Panthers. And Matthew Stafford, he had his moments. But he had 3 turnovers in the game, and that was the difference in the game. His last turnover being a fumble that Carolina recovered and never gave the ball back to him. I think you got to give a lot of credit to David Canales and this staff, Ejiro Evero, what he's been able to do with this defense and how they continue to just press the envelope. Because a lot of people, including myself, kind of left Carolina for dead. After the Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold years, and then you draft Bryce and he struggles, and then you fire the staff, you're like, okay, Carolina, we'll see if they ever figure it out. They draft Tetsuo McMillan, and you're like, okay, maybe they got some building blocks, but I don't think anybody saw this coming. They're 7-6 right now, just beat the number 1 team in my power rankings, a team with a number 1 defense, a team with Matthew Stafford playing the best ball of his career at 37 years old, and I can't really explain it. I can't really explain how this keeps happening, Mitchell. Bryce Young was efficient, 15 of 20 for 206 and 3 touchdowns, like you said, but Chuba Hubbard looked like his old self in this game, had a receiving touchdown, 17 carries for 83 yards, and then Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle has been a godsend for this team. He's been incredibly consistent all season long, and they've been splitting carries between him and Chuba Hubbard all season long, but this has been phenomenal. And if you look at the the Panthers' schedule, they have a winnable game coming up against the New Orleans Saints in the NFC South, and they win that, and you're going to be scratching your head because they're going to be in the playoff conversation. Everybody's in the playoff conversation right now. I don't think I've seen a year where the NFC is so tough, like 9-4, and San Francisco's barely in. You used to be 9-4, 10-4, and you're thinking about resting your starters at the end of the season. Not this year. Everybody's got at least 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins. So it's going to be an incredible finish. Somebody's going to get left out of this playoffs that probably deserves to be there, and I just don't know how we're going to call it, because when you see games like this, you realize everybody can beat everybody, and every week in the NFL, it's its own unique week. It's its own unique battle. You almost got to throw everything out, throw all the stats and records out for a week outside of a few teams, and then you just got to watch the game. Because if you would have told me coming into this game that the Carolina Panthers would beat the LA Rams and put up 31, I would have laughed you out the building, Mitchell. No question about that.
I'm with you. I thought it was a layup for the Rams going on the road, but Carolina's a tough place to play, and they've got a lot to play for. You mentioned that they play the Saints next week, but then they got 2 games against the Buccaneers down the stretcher, and they play the Seattle Seahawks. So a team that is desperate and hungry for a win. No one's going to want to see them down the stretch. They really do control their own destiny here, Richard. It's wild to see, but like you said, there's going to be an 11-6 team that misses a playoff this year, which is wild. But to your point, there's a lot of parity, a lot of teams that are winning a lot of games, that no team that is 16-1 or 15-2 like we saw last year. So
today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. The Hard Rock Bet sports app is the only legal sports book for whenever you're in Florida, and it's also live in Arizona, Ohio, New Jersey, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia, Illinois, and Colorado. But it's coming soon to more states too. Sign up today and you could score $150 in bonus bets. Just place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you not only get your winnings, but also $150 in extra bonus bet.
And big news for all our Detroit fans. Hard Rock Bet is now live in Michigan. Sign up today and place your first $5 sports bet. If it wins, you get $150 in bonus bets on top of your winnings. And if you're more into casino games, new customers can get up to $1,000 back in casino bonus if you're not up money after your first 24 hours of playing slots. Win money or get a casino bonus back. Plus, you also get 200 bonus spins. Winnings paid in cash.
Not sure what to place your first bet on? Head over to Hard Rock Bet Stats Hub and it'll help you out. It's loaded with trends, streaks, and stats that help guide your picks. Numbers don't lie, and neither does the data in there.
Check out the Stats Hub now. Get the edge and bet with confidence. And they must not play a whole lot of defense at Hard Rock Bet because you all are racking up promos nonstop. You can find new promos daily on the app.
Download the Hard Rock Bet app and make your first deposit.
We shall see. And we saw another great game on Black Friday. You were in Philadelphia with the TNF crew, Richard, on a Friday afternoon in Philly. Philly comes away a loser against the Chicago Bears, who all of a sudden find themselves at the 1 seed of the NFC. 9-3 overall. Ben Johnson is proven to be an absolute massive hire for the Chicago Bears team. If you looked at their schedule up to this game, you'd understand why they were 8-3. Not to discount the 8-3 record because it takes a lot of work around the way, but there wasn't a tough opponent that you saw that stood out in the schedule. This was the game that I thought would set the true bar for the Bears, and holy cow, did they pass this test with flying colors. Kyle Monungai, the 6th-round pick or 7th-round pick out of Rutgers, has just exploded on the scene. And him coupled with DeAndre Swift, both rushing for over 120 rush yards. Richard, you saw it firsthand. How good is the Chicago Bears team?
Well, let me go down and really just peel back the layers. The Eagles got bullied in this game. They got bullied. Their defensive line, their linebackers, the Chicago Bears made a huge emphasis on the offensive line this offseason. They drafted, they paid, and they traded for offensive linemen. They got Joe Tooney, they got Dahlman. They were going to make sure that, hey, they gave Caleb Williams the best possible chance with time and a beautiful pocket. But this game wasn't about Caleb Williams. It was about the guys DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monungai, and they weren't being touched at times. They were running through gaping holes. You look and you see guys getting moves, threes techniques and noses getting moved 3-4 yards that way. We see D-ends. We saw Jalen Phillips one time. I thought he was in the stands. Mitchell, I looked up. I said, dang, did he buy a ticket to the game? They were moving him. They were moving him, Mitchell. They were moving the Philadelphia Eagles. And it did not look like a game where there was a non-playoff team playing against the reigning, defending champs. It didn't look that way. It looked almost opposite. The Philadelphia Eagles looked disjointed on offense. And you wonder, after this game, you didn't hear anything about A.J. Brown complaining or saying, hey, I didn't get the ball enough or anything like that, because he got 13 targets, had 100 and something yards. They did well, but they lost. And when you lose and you're productive, does that feel better? Does that make you feel good? No, he's a competitor, so he wants to win. So where do you go from here? I think they have to take play calling duties away from Kevin Patullo. It's too big of a job for him. He does not get it. He cannot design a run game that's suitable for Saquon to have success. And I'm not going to put it on Saquon. I'm sorry. We watched last season. Obviously, this isn't the same offensive line. They've been a little banged up. Lane Johnson's banged up right now. They said he may come back, but the injury that he has, Liz Frank, is not an injury you come back from very often. But he says he's coming back. I'm going to trust in Lane and what he believes. They didn't put him on IR. They don't have Mekhi Becton anymore. He went off to the Chargers to get his money. Respect that. I think it's the Chargers.
Yeah. Yes.
But he makes a huge difference. But schematically, they're just too simple. They're too simple, and at times they don't have answers. When you got plays where you see Quinnen Williams in the 3 technique and you're running counter, and you're like, hey, we probably don't want to run this play with him in the 3 technique. You probably should can or audible out of it. But you can't, because that's not in there. That's not in there. You can't you can't kill the play and then go somewhere else. And I think that's the issue this year. They're running into situations where they're outmanned and they don't have enough guys to block the team that the way they're trying to run. Sometimes they have 3 blockers and there's 4 defenders there. And you look at that play and you're like, how do you expect Saquon to have a chance right here? You don't even have enough blockers to give him a chance. You're saying he has to break a tackle here just to have success. And when you see that consistently, it leaves you to say, okay, Saquon may have his issues. Maybe he lost a step, whatever you feel. But there's something wrong with this scheme, and they got to get that corrected. And Sirianni is an offensive mind. He's an offensive coach. I know he has say-so in these meetings. Maybe he needs to take control again of this offense so that it can function like he knows it's capable of. We know Jalen Hurts can play the quarterback position at a high level at times. We know that he's had multiple Super Bowls where he threw for over 300 yards. Let him go. Stop feeling like you just have to play this RPO game all game long in its most predictable nature. Hey, A.J. Brown's on the left. It's a go route. Like, if everybody else can tell, hey, when he's at this split, when it's here, when he's here, when it's here, if everybody else casually watching the game can say, hey, we probably know the route or the play coming here, that's not a good playbook. That's not a good offense. And no matter how good your players are, they're not going to be able to have success playing that way. Their defenses, that's their only job, is to study this to the point that they understand it as well as the team they're playing so that they can stop it. And that's what teams are doing. I don't feel like the Philadelphia Eagles are a great team right now. You know, they're great. They're a great collection of players, but they're not a great team.
There's no question about it. Richard, to compare it to a boxing match, they've been winning by decision, all season long. They really haven't knocked out any of their opponents, and they were living on that edge, and they finally got caught with a haymaker, and that was the Chicago Bears that just put them out. They keep playing like this. I don't see how they defend their title in this playoffs. I mean, their schedule down the stretch is not all that tough. I don't think they're going to have a problem coming out with the division in their hands. But they do play the Chargers. They do play the Raiders, Commanders, and Bills, and then the Commanders again. So, if they don't show up against the Chargers and they fall flat against the Bills, you better watch out for these Dallas Cowboys, man, because they're as red hot as it gets. And I know they come to Detroit on Thursday. I know you're going to be there. But Philly better turn it on quick. Otherwise, maybe this division will be up for grabs.
And what's remarkable about that, and we're going to dive down a rabbit hole that may not ever come to fruition, but they can miss the playoffs. Like, it doesn't take a ton. It doesn't take a ton for you to miss the playoffs right now. Like, 2 losses, you find 2 losses somewhere in there, all of a sudden, if you're not the division winner, it's not no guarantees that you're in this playoff.
There's nothing.
And that's how tough the NFC is right now. And so I don't think the Eagles missed the playoffs, but it's a lot closer than you would think.
I'm right there with you. And then in terms of the Bears, their schedule gets a lot tougher down these last 5 games of the season. They're at the Packers. They're at home against the Browns. They're at home against the Packers. Then on the road against the Niners, and then they host the Lions to finish the season off. There's 4 games that really stand out to me here. I know they took it to the Eagles, but if they want this 1 seed, they got to take care of business against their division foes now. The Packers are looming, and they're looming large. They took care of my Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving, Richard, and we'll talk about that game next because I was there, and I was devastated. I thought this Detroit Lions team would at some point wake up, much like this Philadelphia Eagles team. You see the Lions, survive an absolute scare at home against the New York Giants, and you say, okay, maybe that's the wake-up call they need. They didn't take the loss. They were able to rally together and pull this one off in dramatic fashion. But then you watch it as this game starts, the Packers jump out to a 10-0 lead like it's nothing. Detroit generates no pressure on Jordan Love all the game. He throws for 4 touchdowns to, a bunch of wide receiver twos. Wicks has a huge game. Christian Watson goes off. All this with the Lions having one of the biggest struggles that they have is their interior offensive line. Richard, I think their offensive tackles are two of the best in the league, but their middle three of that O-line, that's got to be one of the worst, if not the worst, interior O-lines in the league. And they've just been getting wrecked up the middle for the last, 4 or 5 games, ever since the Vikings game. And I just don't know what is ever going to change to renew this faith that I have in the Detroit Lions, because like I just said, they got Dallas coming to town on Thursday. They're going to have to get this thing right immediately.
Well, I think that the thing that can give you hope is Jamison Williams is coming into his own. Jahmyr Gibbs continues to be incredibly explosive. I know that you were looking for Ragnow to come in and give you that boost. But I'll tell you what, it's hard to come off that couch. Picture, it's tough. It's tough coming off that couch. You come off that couch and you ain't ready. Hamstring toe off the bone.
Ugh.
That's tough. But I think offensively they're fine. I think the defensive side of the ball is where all the concern is. Some of it's in that secondary. They were giving up a lot of plays. And Kelvin Shepherd, you can't just sit there and play man all day. You can't. Like, these are twos or whatever, receiver twos, but still, you can't just sit there and play man-to-man all day long. It's lazy. It's lazy defensive coordinating. And I'll keep saying that. Because all the onus is on the players in that position. You're putting all the onus, hey, you guys got a hard job, and I'm going to make you do a hard job all day. I'm not going to make my job hard and say, hey, I got to figure out when they're on first down and in first down situations, when they're in when they're in 11 personnel, what I need to call to put you in the best position. Is it 3? Is that going to be tough on them? Is it 2? Do I bring pressure? Which side do I bring pressure? How do I manipulate the offensive line, et cetera, et cetera? You just say, hey, play man. And then when it doesn't go well, you say, oh, they didn't cover him well enough. Like, that's lazy. You got to be more creative defensively. That's what I hate. That it drives me crazy, because it takes more football IQ to game plan without saying, hey, I'm just going to leave you guys in man all day. Because all the fans are going to say is, GTBs keep getting beat, man, we suck. It's like, no, it's not that simple. They're being tasked with a hard job. It's hard to guard receivers one-on-one in the National Football League, period. It's dang sure hard to guard them every play, but again, they gotta figure out that balance. And maybe these guys aren't great at zone. Maybe that's the reason they're doing it. Maybe it's more to it than I'm giving credit. But I think the lack of pass rush also is a concern. But you guys knew that coming into the season, and they didn't address it. You didn't go get a Preston Smith again. You didn't call the guys, and you haven't called them yet. There's always pass rushers out there, Mitchell. Those are people that come off the couch. They're training year-round because they know it takes one injury, and the pass rusher can find himself on a Super Bowl team with a ring on his finger. If you stay in shape and you can get to that quarterback, you'll have a job, especially after week 13, 14, 15, where it's not going to count against the cap in that way. Don't worry, they'll pick you up. They'll pick you up. Them playoff checks don't count the same. But I just don't know if the Detroit Lions have enough defensively to survive the way they need to. Especially this division continues to be a gauntlet. It continues to be a gauntlet. Last year it was Minnesota, going crazy with 14 wins. This year the Bears are surprising you and running away with the division. You got to keep up. And in order to keep up, it has to be the pass rush. And unless they find that somewhere in some miraculous way, I'll let you know how I go this week in Detroit, Mitchell. I'll be there. You'll be there.
I will be there. And the Dallas Cowboys will be there as well. And we saw another thriller on Thanksgiving. These Dallas Cowboys continue to shock. I'm getting less surprised, though, as I'm watching them, Richard, because I think they just might be that good. We saw this pairing of George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb coming into the season, and we said, how the heck is that going to work? It seems cool in theory, but I don't know if this is going to pay off. And then you see Micah Parsons getting dealt. And then we see Quinnen Williams coming in at the deadline. Maybe, just maybe, Jerry Jones knew what he was doing. Maybe he thought this team needed a little bit of an identity shakeup, some fresh faces in the clubhouse, if you will. And my goodness, George Pickens has had a heck of a year, and they've catapulted the Dallas Cowboys into a team that is a must-watch TV, in my opinion. What was your thoughts about this game, Dallas taking down the Kansas City Chiefs 31-28?
It was a huge win for Dallas, and it was a devastating loss for the Kansas City Chiefs because and going back to Micah Parsons, he played fantastic against the Detroit Lions.
Oh, no question.
Of the 3 sacks. Let's not act like he's not going out there and having a great season. I think he's the first player in NFL history to have his 12.5 sacks in each of his first 5 seasons. I think the Green Bay Packers are perfectly fine with how that went for them. On the other side, I don't know if I'm willing to say Jerry's right. I mean, they pick up Jadeveon Clowney off the streets. He gets 2 sacks in that game. But Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark, they're going to be impact players. They're going to be forceful in the run game. Quinnen's been impactful in the pass game, putting pressure in the interior, and they haven't had that in a while. But again, these other guys are starting to develop, and they're starting to become the guys that they expected. And maybe they knew that. Maybe they knew they had these guys in the fold. They knew what they would become. They saw flashes during training camp or something. Sure, I'll accept that. Also, the Kansas City Chiefs are not what the Kansas City Chiefs have been. Sure, Patrick Mahomes had 4 touchdowns in this game. He had 261 yards passing, 23 of 34. He's getting it done, but it didn't look like the way you expect it to look. For CeeDee Lamb to go 7 for 112 against the Spags defense, it's different. Dak Prescott is playing at as high of a level as he's played. I'm sure he's had a couple games where he struggled this season, but in the biggest games, he's played really well, and he played well this game, throwing for 322 touchdowns. He did have the 1 interception. Javonte Williams continues. I think Shotty's doing a great job of scheming up this run game in a real way. He's scheming up this run game. You see there's gaping holes, and he's finding himself in the second and third level of the defense pretty consistently, and he's doing a great job with that. But the Kansas City Chiefs got some real self-evaluating to do. Obviously, you knew eventually it had to come to an end. Going to the Super Bowl 5 of the last 6 years, eventually there's going to be a down year. So does this mean, oh, man, finally the Chiefs, it's over? I don't know. I don't know if it's over. I know that it's very exhausting to go to Super Bowl 5 of the last 6 years. I know that's exhausting. Every offseason is a short one for them. Their offseason doesn't start till February, till March. After February, some guys are booking. Some guys already have their vacations booked right now. They know, hey, January 14th, we're gonna be in Cabo, or we're gonna be in Cancun, or we're gonna be in Tahiti, with a martini. You know what I mean? You're gonna be in Hawaii with the Mai Tai, but not the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs have not been able to book vacation plans in January for some time. This might be the year.
Wouldn't that be a shock? The one blessing that they do have is the AFC, unlike the NFC, is a little bit more open. I think that Kansas City Chiefs can put together a run here and still get in with 6 to 7 losses on the scoreboard. But there is cause for concern, no question. This does not look like the same Chiefs team. It took them a while to get their offense rolling until they got Rashee Rice back. You thought that was the bump that they needed to get them over the finish line here, but I don't know, Richard. This last loss on Thanksgiving, and then they go and play the Texans, who I don't think anyone wants to play right now, Richard. That defense, we already talked about it, but that defense has just turned into an absolute force, and they brought it to Indianapolis today, but we'll see how things shake out for the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's turn our focus here a bit to the NFC South. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers fended off the Arizona Cardinals 20-17. Baker Mayfield was questionable heading into this game with a shoulder injury. He comes out, throws for almost 200 yards and a touchdown. Richard, your thoughts on this Buccaneers team? They needed a win desperately. They've been struggling of late. They improved to 7-5, leaders in this division, with the Carolina Panthers nipping at their heels. Your thoughts on this game?
Well, they did enough to win the game. You know, the Arizona Cardinals have not been great this season. They've struggled mightily. So to even see this game as close as it was, but you got to give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers credit traveling across the country, playing Arizona Cardinals. Again, Jacoby Brissett continues to show why he could possibly be a starter, why they made the decision to Kyler Murray got hurt, but Kyler Murray, they said, hey, Kyler, just, we wouldn't mind. Take your time. Yeah, go on IR. Call of Duty's out. The new Call of Duty Black Ops 7 out. Take your time. Maybe explore baseball. I don't know. You can do whatever you like, but we're gonna go with Jacoby right now. And you can see why. 29 of 40, put 301, a touchdown, an interception. Sure, he's had some struggles of a game, but that's NFL caliber quarterback play. And Baker Mayfield did enough to win this game. He was 18 of 28, 194, a touchdown. Bucky Irvin, 17 carries for 61 yards and a touchdown. Chris Godwin finally getting back into the fold and getting involved. The defense got two sacks and an interception. So, sure, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are finding a way to win against the Arizona Cardinals. I'm not sure that's a quality win that makes you feel great, but you're in the NFC South. And at the end of the day, they've won the NFC South 4 straight years and looking for a 5th straight year. They got a lot of NFC South games coming up. They got the Saints, Falcons, Panthers, and then they got the Dolphins, who've been playing better as of late, and then the Panthers again. So this division will be determined down the stretch, as it usually is. Can the Carolina Panthers beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in one of those 2 games when they play in 2 of the last 3 weeks, the final they play them twice in the final 3 games, I believe.
Correct.
And then the Cardinals have the Rams, and I would expect the Rams to win that game. But as we found out in this league, you can't expect anything.
I would expect the Rams to win that game as well, but who knows? Who knows? Let's talk more in depth about this Houston Texans team. We've alluded to them all podcast, and they just knocked off the Indianapolis Colts, who now fall to 8-4. They were once number 1 in your power ranks, weren't they, Richard?
Yes, they were.
And now they have fallen. And the Texans now 7-5 and not far behind this division. Let's be real here. It's the Jags, it's the Texans, it's the Colts. It's a tight battle here. What do you credit this most to, this turnaround? Because it seemed like this was going to be a lost season based on the start.
I credit it to just stability. I credit it to stability, and sometimes you just have a rough start to the season. I think D'Amico Ryan's given up defensive play calling duties and just going to the offensive side and trying to figure out what's going on, what's holding us back. Obviously, they lost a big time tackle in Laramie Tunzel, and they're doing a little bit of what am I looking for?
Moving around,
shuffling on the offensive line. Woody Marks has developed into their lead back. They started the year thinking Nick Chubb will be the lead back, and he's still getting his carries, but sometimes it takes a second. And then Nico Collins is starting to, play like he's capable of playing. C.J. Stroud was struggling early on, and I think he was struggling to see it. And offensive coordinator getting on the same page, and I think he's gotten more of a voice, and D'Amico's done a great job of just making sure he has conversations with the offensive coordinator. He feels comfortable saying, hey, this is what I like to do. And you see it's starting to manifest itself. But I think the other side of the ball is why they've really been in it. They've been dominant. They've been really dominant in every phase of the game. I think they're number 1 and number 2 against the pass and number 1 and number 2 against the run in the league, and that's where they've been succeeding. They got an incredible secondary. They got an incredible D-line. And they got my guy, Azeez Al-Shaair, in the middle of that defense, commanding it. And so it's one of the best defensive talent-wise in the National Football League. I remember we had them a couple weeks ago, and they just dominated. I mean, it was Will Anderson, it was Kalen Bullocks, it was Danielle Hunter. It was just it was Kamari Lassiter. It was everybody, and then you say all those names, and you don't say Derek Stingley because nobody's messing with Derek Stingley out there. They tried to. It was an incomplete, almost a big play, but incomplete. But they're starting to believe that they can be a special team. Starting the season 0-3, there aren't many teams that make the playoffs, but nobody, like you said, nobody wants to play the Texans right now, and they're going to play the struggling Kansas City Chiefs in their next game. And again, Mahomes has been hit; he's been sacked in these games, and they just lost their I believe they lost their tackle last week, and so they're going to have to play Jalen Moore coming up, and Jalen Moore is a fine backup tackle, swing tackle in this league, but you going against Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, that's a long day for anybody.
Well, you mentioned Derek Stingley Jr. This is he did not allow a single reception today on 28 coverage snaps. This is his fifth game this season that he's allowed less than 10 yards in coverage. Richard, those are stats they used to throw up next to your name when you were playing, my man. This just goes to show you how good he is and how good of a cornerback he has developed to be in this league. On the other side, the Colts, who once were the hottest team in the NFL, have cooled off dramatically. We find out that Daniel Jones, has been playing with a fractured fibula. That's a big deal. I mean, it's obviously going to catch up to you at some point. It looks like it might have. I know they were going up against a top-tier defense, but this is the first time they've been held under 20 points all season. How much concern is there for you in Indianapolis?
A lot of concern. I don't know how serious, when you say a fractured fibula, it just sounds so severe, but there are stress fractures, stress reaction. There's different levels of things, but obviously Daniel Jones is an incredibly tough player. But you see how much an NFL season and a team's future and a team's destiny can be on the edge of a knife. Because if they lose Daniel Jones and they'll go back to Anthony Richardson, and then people have a lot different feeling about the Indianapolis Colts. You don't feel great about them. You don't feel great about them winning this division at all, even with the lead they have. And so Daniel Jones feels like he has to, like he's playing for a contract and his career, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're playing already with a stress fracture, it usually means you're compensating in some other way, whether it's your hips, your glutes, your calves, et cetera. And that's when you start to see strained muscles and pulled muscles, and knock on wood, you don't want to see that for Daniel Jones, but that's the fear when you start to have an injury like that and you know that you have to compensate. Thankfully, this offensive line kept him relatively clean this game. I mean, he only got sacked once. So you hope that can continue and that he's not getting sacked a ton, he's not getting hit a ton, but it's something to watch, because if he goes down for even a couple games, his season can fall apart.
No question about it. Next up, they got the Jags, who took care of business against the lowly Titans this week, but nonetheless, another divisional game against a team that's got a very good record as well, that is firmly in the mix for this division. The Bills just knocked off the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have been reeling. They fall to 6-6. The Buffalo Bills go on the road, get a convincing win. Josh Allen with a nice rushing touchdown, got shoved in by his entire O-line. Weather was an issue today. We didn't see a ton in the air. We saw a ton of James Cook, though. 32 carries for 144 yards. Richard, is it safe to say the Pittsburgh Steelers are done this season?
Is it safe to say they're done? No, because of what you said earlier. The AFC isn't like the NFC right now, so there's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of things that are left are going to have to happen for them to get put out. But you don't see a lot of hope right now, because their defense has been inconsistent. They've had games where they played at a really high level. There's been games where you question all the decisions they made this offseason. So with Aaron Rodgers potentially being out for the foreseeable future, who knows? Who knows? Because the offense was stagnant even with him in the fold. The offense was stagnant. And so without him, you go to Kyle Rudolph, and he's just not at the same level, and he doesn't get the same respect. And this may be the end of the road for Aaron. Because Father Time catches up to everybody. It's undefeated, and these injuries are injuries you expect for a guy over 40 years old in the National Football League. He's getting banged up. This offensive line isn't the best in the National Football League, so the Buffalo Bills did what they needed to do to win. Josh Allen did what he needed to do to win this game. But I think the Bills are skating on thin ice. I don't feel great about any team in the AFC right now. Again, we thought the Colts were the class at AFC. They've lost a few games since then. The only team that's really been dominant and feels like they can make a case, clearly the best team is the New England Patriots, and nobody would have said that before the season started.
It's a wild proclamation, but it's certainly looking like it might be true. You also forgot about the Denver Broncos, who have only got 2 losses, but we shall see. They've been flirting with losses all season long. Richard, before we wrap up this game, Josh Allen's touchdown, or his rushing touchdown, was his 76th of his career. That's the most of any QB in NFL history. He has certainly made his mark on this league with his style of play. Next up for the Bills, they play the Bengals, who now have Joe Burrow at the helm, and then the Patriots, and then followed by the Browns. The Steelers next week have the Ravens. Speaking of those Bengals and Joe Burrow, who saw this one coming? Thanksgiving Day for Baltimore fans was not fun, I can imagine. 32-14 final. Joe Burrow came in, they interviewed him pregame, basically said, hey, you guys are all but mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. Why'd you come back? And he just said, I signed a big contract. I'm here to win. And that's what they did. They took it to the Baltimore Ravens. Kudos to Joe Burrow for coming back, playing through pain. What did you think of what you saw from Joe Burrow and the Bengals on Thursday?
Well, you saw some rust early, but eventually he knocked it off, and he looked like the Joe Burrow. Yeah, he's still not the Joe Burrow of old because there's still some pain in that toe, I could imagine. But the rapport between him and Jamar Chase is still there. They're able to score points. They're 32 points, but they were scoring points with Joe Flacco. The concerning part of this game was the Ravens and Lamar Jackson and how he struggled. The Bengals defense has been abysmal all season long. They've been awful. They've been a doormat. They've been a revolving door of touchdowns, field goals, and points. Every time you look up, the Bengals have scored a lot of points, but the other team has scored a little more. And for them to hold the Baltimore Ravens, who were before the season started, considered a Super Bowl contender with an MVP candidate at quarterback, Derrick Henry at running back, and you felt really good about him to being beat by the 4-8 Bengals, especially when you're in desperation mode. You're in desperation mode. You could potentially make these playoffs. You could potentially win this division. Now with the Pittsburgh Steelers struggling, the Browns out of it, the Bengals out of it. Like, now's your chance to make a move, and you lose by 18 points to the Cincinnati Bengals. That's concern. That's when the concern level goes up. You wonder what's going on with Lamar Jackson. He had 3 turnovers in this game, and that's what really cost this team the game. Like, what is going on? Because I don't know if this is rust because he's been playing for a couple weeks. Is it just, him taking a step back? Is it just, maybe it's something going on at home? I don't know what it is, but we've rarely seen Lamar Jackson play this way. Hopefully he's able to bounce back again next week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, a game that could decide who's at the top of this division. The Bengals have a game against the Bills, and we'll see if they want to play defense for another week. And again, we don't know what's going on in this league. I'm not going to be one trying to predict it this year.
Well, the Bengals still are not mathematically eliminated in this division, so crazy things could happen. Joe Burrow, they run the table. Who knows? Maybe it is their division. We shall see.
All odds and lines come from our partners at Hard Rock Bet. We've got the Giants at the Patriots on Monday Night Football tomorrow. Hard Rock Bet has the Patriots as a 7-point spread in this game. I think that's about right. You never know if Jackson Dart's coming back with a little bit of rust, how he's going to be able to maneuver in this offense. The Patriots have a rock-solid plan. They're going to be prepared to play. Mike Vrabel is going to have those boys raring to go. They're feeling good. They're confident. They're at home. They're hard to beat in Gillette. And so I feel like this 7-point spread is the perfect number for this team. I feel like they're going to cover.
Richard, I think they're going to win. I don't think they're going to cover, though. I've seen enough from Jackson Dart to become a huge believer in him. I would love for him to be my franchise quarterback. New York Giants fans have got to be thrilled. I think with him at the helm, it's going to be a high-scoring affair. We'll see if their defense can keep them in it, because I know the Pats are going to be putting up points too. But I have the Pats the Pats winning, but the Giants covering that spread. I also have got 3 players who I think are going to be anytime touchdown scorers. Stephon Diggs, who's been hot lately. Ramondre Stevenson, fresh legs coming back from injury last week. And then finally, Jackson Dart. Those are my picks.
I love it.
Richard, it's always a pleasure sitting down with you here every Sunday night. And this concludes our podcast for Week 13. I will let you sign us off, my friend.
The season's been flying by, and you guys have been sticking with us the whole time. We appreciate you. As always, you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we surely do appreciate it. All love. Hit that sub button if you're new.